should be the last one of our blocks to make the quilt. We'll show you how to put the blocks together next time, but this time we're going to show you this last block. It is another 12 by 15, so 12 by 15. Then I have marked 3 inches in on both sides, the long ways. So 3 inches in, 3 inches, 3 inches, and then I've marked 3 inches coming down those lines. So this is 3 inches in, then I marked 3 inches, 3 inches, 3 inches. That's 3 inches on both sides. In the center, we have our 8-point crosshair square done. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring our thread up on the line, one of those 3-inch lines I told you about. Needle down, and we're going to stitch all the way down that line. All the way down. Okay, I'm going to go outside in my seam allowance, and then I'm going to put my ruler on my stitch line, and I'm going to stitch back up. So I'm echoing my stitch line on the inside, basically. On it? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Add a lit. Whoops. No, I'm not. I moved. Okay, so my line isn't going to be straight, but you guys get the idea. It's supposed to be. Okay, I'm outside my seam allowance, so I'm going to cut that thread. Now I'm going to come and do the exact same thing on the other side. And actually, I'm not going to bring up my thread. I'm going to start in the outside edge. Okay. And I'm going to stitch this line down. I'm going to travel. I'm going to put my ruler on my stitch line. And this time I'm going to manage not to wiggle it. And there we go. I'm in my seam allowance, so I'm cutting my thread out there. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch an inch down from my top line, and I'm going to bring my bobbin thread up on my stitch line, my inside stitch line here. And I know I'm stitching an inch down because I have my ruler on the third line. So the third line plus my 1/4 inch for my foot is going to put me at 1 inch away. Okay. I'm coming to my inside stitch line. Now I'm going to stitch down 1/4 inch. And remember how we echoed on the sides? We're going to echo on the top now. Keeping that ruler on my stitch line. And I come to this inside stitch line on this side and bring my thread up. And there we go. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. And then, of course, I would bury these threads. Okay, so now I'm going to do the bottom side. I'm going to do the exact same thing. Third line of the ruler on my outside drawn line. Bring my thread up on my inside seam line. Stop at my inside seam line, travel, 1/4 inch down, line my ruler up on my stitch line, and do an echo. Stop at my inside seam line, bring my thread up, and there we go. Now, if I was really doing this as a block, which I've already done, I would tear that out and I would redo that so that that was nice and straight on that edge. Not gonna hurt anything to do that. Okay, now the next thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna take my straight edge again. I'm gonna bring my thread up in the corner of where my outside line meets okay, and then I'm going to put my ruler on the 3-inch mark that we made down here, and I'm going to stitch diagonally over to that, stop. Now I'm going to come down to the next 3-inch line, and I'm going to stitch diagonally down to that. And the next one. And then I'm going to end up right here at where my intersection of my line with my outside border is. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cut that. I'm outside my seam allowance. I went ahead and traveled down. Now I'm going to come back up to the top. And now I'm going to bring my thread up in the opposite corner of that 3-inch rectangle that we made. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come to my 3-inch line. Stop. Come to the 3-inch line down here. And stop. 3-inch line down here. And come out my corner. Now there's a couple of different things that you can do in here to do some fill patterns if you would like to. One of the ideas was to center this and kind of squiggle through, but I didn't like the way it looked, so I'm not gonna. So my idea is to make a kind of a blip, for lack of a better term. So I'm gonna start, let's see, I'm gonna start right like this, out of my outside border. I'm gonna come to the join of my corner and I'm gonna move it down. Come to the point of my corner, move it down. Come to the point of my corner again. And then I'll come back out. I'm out of my outside border, and now I'm going to go around the other way and just make kind of a, I don't know, lozenge shape in the middle of my squares, because I like that better. You can do whatever you darn well please, so at this point you should know what all of those rulers do, and you should be able to decide what you would like to put inside your squares. Just come back out. Okay, so I think that's kind of a fun design. So I'm going to do that on the other side as well. So this side and this side. And again, Here's where I kind of bobbled my ruler right there. If I was doing this as an actual block I was going to finish, I would pull that out and restitch it. Okay, what do you do with the center? I tell you, you're going to take your spiral ruler and you're going to put it, start in the center, bring up your thread right in the dead center, which you have marked with your crosshair square, like so. Okay, you're going to do this, and I'm going to come all the way out until I touch my inside seam line. So I'm going to go like this, and I'm coming back to the center. And now I'm going to take this ruler right here, and I'm going to swing it till the second line is on here. So there's my first line, there's my second line. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come back out. Right to that center again. Swing it till that second line is on. Swing it, and I'm going to hit the outside line, so I'm not going to go outside my stitch line. Woo, no I didn't, I just missed it. Next time I will. Okay, I'll hit it this time. Woo. So I'm just going to touch that outside stitch line there, and I'm going to come back in. Always staying in the center. Try not to move your ruler, because then your lines won't echo nicely. Touch that outside seam line, come back in. Now I'm hitting the top. Should have cut that thread. So I will. There. So we've sewn over that center thread 50 times. That's not coming out, so I don't need to really worry about burying that. Side, so I'm not going to go around that one. Now if I was worried about that little bit right there that should come through, I could go in and do that, but I don't think anybody's going to notice that, so I'm not going to. My second line on. And that's it, that's your center. So all you have to do is go do this other side, and then this block will be done. Now, before we get to the putting it together part, all of your blocks you're going to trim 1/4 inch past your drawn line. So you have your measurements, your finished measurements for all your blocks. You're going to cut 1/4 inch seam allowance outside of all of your blocks to get them ready to join them. So we will see you next time to show you how to join your quilt blocks.